Okay, this is War of the Suns. We're looking at the Chinese War of Resistance 1937 1945. This is rules video again. This time we're looking at combat. Now, combat in this game is not particularly odd or different from combat in any other game. It's pretty straightforward, really. The only difference is you can actually be in the same hex as an enemy unit. I mentioned that in movement, and I may not have told you right, but if a defending unit only has units with no zone of control or limited zone of control, the opposing side can actually move into that hex. That's pretty unique as far as I know for a war game, but that's the only odd thing about this. In terms of attacking, it's not mandatory. If you're going to attack, at least one unit on your side must be exerting a zone of control into the defending hex. If you're attacking, a single unit can't split its attack strength to attack multiple hexes. You've got to attack the same thing. But if you're in a stack of multiple units, one unit can attack hex A and another unit could attack hex B. You don't all have to attack the same hex. In terms of attacking, when you do attack a hex, you've got to attack every single unit in that hex. You can't pick off one unit to be attacked. A hex can only be attacked once. A hex or a unit can only be attacked once in a particular phase, but in a turn you could be attacked multiple times. The only exception to that is a unit that's attacked and then retreats into another hex, which is in turn attacked, could be attacked twice. Terrain effects, you have to look up on the terrain effects on the chart to see how that affects the actual combat, because there are die roll modifiers for that, but it's nothing unusual. The combat hex and hex side combat effects are cumulative. Try saying that. That's not unusual either. To determine the combat results, you add up the attacker strength and the defender strength, and you get a ratio between them. You apply your dice roll modifiers for things like terrain, and then both sides roll a single d6, and then you compare the results. You take one from the other to get a die roll difference, and the die roll difference can also be modified, and then you go and obtain the difference on the combat results chart by cross-referencing the die roll difference with the combat ratio. Okay. Odd things about it is if an enemy unit is in the same hex as you and is attacking you, they've got to take their losses first, even if that means that unit's destroyed. You can't just say, or the units in the adjacent hexes will absorb the casualties. Okay. Artillery units can only take losses if all friendly and allied units stacked with them have been eliminated. Final bit of combat is the fact you've got post-combat movement. You can have a retreat or you can have an advance after combat. Now retreats are pretty standard. The unit is eliminated if there's no hex it can retreat to. If it doesn't have enough movement points to retreat to any hex, it's forced to retreat off the map. Its only retreat path leads it to a hex beyond its limited operational area. It only retreat path enters an enemy zone of control. Provided it has a valid retreat option, it may always choose to eliminate at least half of the combat strength instead of retreating. That's unusual as well. Unit retreating to a friendly hex which is attacked later. I've already said that could be attacked twice. Ground units may retreat after combat via sea transport without using sea transport points, but they have to spend the 2 movement points to exit the enemy zone of control. That's interesting. Once after combat, after each combat is resolved, any of the attacking ground units may enter the hex the enemy units were defending. If no enemy units remain in the attacked hex, advance after combat can be done regardless of the attacking unit's movement allowance or enemy zones of control. Another little variation on this is there's a result on the combat table which looks at surrender. Now, as far as I know, that's unique to this game. For surrendering combatant or CCP units, including guerrillas, you can place a generic unit of the equivalent strength pool in the reinforcement. The strength, equivalent stacking point value into the reinforcement pool. If we just go over, we can have a look at these things. If I can find one. Yeah, here's one. So they're just remnant units, basically. So even if a unit's completely destroyed, you do get something back. I say destroyed, I mean surrendered. Okay. I won't go into that anymore, but be aware that there's special rules for units that are going to surrender. I believe even the Japanese can sort of get Chinese units who surrendered to fight for them as well. That'll do for combat.